Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we are looking at a deck profile for weather painters in 2021, almost 2022. This is one of my all-time favorite archetypes in terms of artwork. I really love the design. I even think the way they design the archetype is like really interesting and cool. And so I want to go back. I do think the deck has a few more tools from 2021 that makes it a little better. I know it's been a while since I updated this, so I figure I might as well give you my thoughts on like what can make potentially the best weather painter deck you can play right now. So yeah, without further ado, let's just jump into this bad boy, all right? Starting off here with our monster lineup, of course, you got to play triple weather painter Snow. She is your engine starter. She is the best single starter you can open in your hand. She says when she's normal summoned, you can place one weather spell or trap card from your deck into your spell and trap zone. That means it is not ashable, and actually ash is like pretty awful versus this deck. Technically you can hit the spell or the trap in the archetype, but those are continuous and they can activate every turn, so it's just a -1 to ash those. Other than that, they can only really ash like a pot or a search card, which is amazing. I love that that's really bad for them. Other than that, it has the same effect that all the other weather painters have, which is once returned during the next standby phase of the turn after this card was banished from the field to activate a weather card's effect, you can special summon the card back to the field. So they all come back on the next standby phase after they've been banished. You'll see how that comes up if you're not familiar with this archetype, but it's pretty good resource wise. Next up for the other like pseudo starter, but this is the one that like is the best one in the deck after turn 1, whereas Snow is the best one turn 1. But he's still really good. So his main effect on the field is that you can send any face-up continuous spell or trap you control to the graveyard to place another weather spell or trap straight from the deck into your spell and trap zone. Again, very good. Cycles out things you might not want or need or extras or whatever. Just utility. This card covers all the bases, and he's also 1700 attack. I didn't mention that either with Snow. She's 2200 booty. She's actually pretty beef. And then Thunder's actually pretty big for a level 3 at 17, so he can allow you to kind of chip in there and get some damage going when you have a chance. But yeah, he's one of my favorite ones. Both of them are obviously, they have to be one of my favorite ones because they're the best monsters in the deck. Then for utility, I'm kind of playing one each of these bad Mamma Jammas. One Cloud, one Sun, one Aurora. Do not play Rain. She is poo. Oh my god, I hate that card. That card's so garbage. Anyway. Cloud is really awesome. He says if any other face-up weather card you control is sent to the graveyard, then he can target up to 2 weather spell or traps in your graveyard and place them back up into your spell and trap zones face up. That is so awesome, especially since we have a quick play way to summon him straight out of the deck. So if your opponent activates something like Lightning Storm, calls spells and traps, you could chain your cards to summon this guy from the deck so that they clear the spells and traps, and then he immediately just sets 2 back into the spell and trap zone. So your opponent could theoretically go -1 on that, or at least you save some of your resources. Then there's Sun. He has an effect in Grave where you can send a face-up continuous spell or trap you control to Grave to summon himself back, and then if you do, place a weather spell or trap from your hand to face up in the spell and trap zone. I'm not 100% sure on this. I think you have to have a weather spell or trap in hand to even activate this effect in the first place. I hope you don't, like, because it would be, he'd actually be a decent little extender if just generically he could revive himself just by sending any continuous, and you wouldn't have to have another card in hand to do it. But at the end of the day, it's another way to put an extra body on the field, and that's really the only reason why we play him. He's also 16, so he's also like a okay statted monster for level 3. And then you have Aurora. I'm not gonna lie to you, one of the biggest reasons we play Aurora is because she's 2200 attack, and this deck has a really low attack threshold, so it is nice to have access to a monster that can at least get over 2000. So if you're gonna play that control game, she kind of helps just beat in over and over again. But her effect says when she's normal summoned, she can do the same thing as Snow, except Snow only sets from deck. She sets from hand, graveyard, or deck, any weather spell or trap. And she has another effect that while she's on the field, all your weather spell and trap cards cannot be targeted by card effects or destroyed. So that's actually another really good one. If you can quick effect churn her out on the opponent's turn, they activate Lightning Storm, trying to destroy all your face-up weather cards, and you can just summon her out as a quick effect, and then literally all your cards just stay alive and they go -1 on that. Really cool. Actually does come up, especially post-side, because people think you just lose to 1 back row wipe, where as long as you got the trap at some point turn 1, you're gonna just protect it all. So that's your lineup. Keeping it really small. We have much more consistency than we did before. Before I would actually play more names just because you had to see a normal summon at least to just be live with one of the back rows. But nowadays you actually have much more consistency cards to help be able to cut down on that, so you can play more defensive cards to be able to not lose to just like anything that's decent in the game. Then for the hand traps, the only hand traps I'm playing are really high impact ones. Triple Dimension Shifter. This card almost puts nothing in the graveyard turn 1, so there are even possibilities of not even needing to activate this on your turn 1, because I think if you don't open exactly like a pot or Piri Rice map, you don't even put a card period in the graveyard. So you can even hold this card until your opponent's turn, send it, and then be able to have them locked out of the grave on your turn as well if they do play a deck that could potentially make things happen then. Really cool. Next up, I play Gamma. If you don't know, all of the Weather Painters get banished as quick effects on the opponent's turn really easily, so it is very easy to clear your field of monsters on a moment's notice and make Gamma live on the opponent's turn. It's really awesome. I think the synergy here is actually insane because people just like don't see it coming. People aren't, you like use one, oh, sorry, spoiler alert. You use like one Weather Painter effect to like banish. You could use the one to summon from deck, and they're like, oh, they're gonna summon from deck. If I negate this, I'm probably locking them out of playing the game anymore on my turn. So they ash, and then you Gamma, and then you still resolve, and like everything's fine and dandy. Plus, you have the possibility to resolve this on your turn as well sometimes, and that can give you Synchro 8 plays, so even more punishment for the opponent. Then the last monsters I play in the main are 1 Alpha and 1 Pank. Again, the deck has a really easy time clearing its own monsters off the field at a moment's notice, so Pank and Alpha, who say all you have to do is have less monsters than your opponent has, or attack stats that's total lower than your opponent's, very easy to get these on the field at any point in the duel, other than like obviously you going first turn 1. But you need power cards going second. These are cards that are good at baiting more than one interruption a lot of the time, because this deck really just cannot afford to play into interruptions too well. So these guys really help that. So definitely like them. If I'm not playing them in the main, I'm playing them in the side, and I'm probably playing more alphas in the side anyway, just because like the deck needs a way to just like 1 card, maybe 2 cards, just bait out all your opponent's interruptions so that the weather cards can take over from there. Then we get to the spells. Of course, you have to play Snowy Canvas. This is actually the only spell I play, because I think there's only one other spell, and it's bad. Oh, actually, maybe there's 2 other spells, but they're not great. I honestly don't like them at all. Snowy's the only real spell that I like. It's the best like starter one. It says, so here's the interesting part with all the weather canvases. They're all continuous, spells and traps. And what they say is they don't actually have an effect themselves. They give an effect to any Weather Painter monster that is in the corresponding column that they're in, as well as the adjacent columns. So to the right and the left. So anything that's in this like T formation will gain the effects here. And they say that you can only use it once per turn. Per card, so even though it's giving it to 3 monsters, they're not all individually hard once per turns. You can only do it once, but this one says you can quick effect. They all also do this. Their quick effects banish the target as cost, or whatever the monster that has the effect as cost, to then perform an action. Snowy Canvas allows you to search any weather card. That's really good. This card by itself isn't a 1 card starter, but if you just see it with any weather card, and just obviously Snow being able to go like normal summon, activate, banished, search, and then like boom, you've already gone +2 just off of Snow, which is pretty cool. And then you have set up to like search more and more every turn after that. So the canvases are really nice. I love the mechanic here. It's really powerful. You can also only control 1 at a time, but you really want to see that card. It's very important. Next up here, we play some consistency cards. Piri Rice map. I don't really need to explain this too much. It's a very new card. It allows you to add any 0 attack monster from your deck to the hand, but you can't activate its effects until you normal summon it, but that's fine. Again, it's just 3 more copies of our best starter in the deck, Snow. You add it, you normal summon it, it's a +2. It's consistency. I don't know what else to tell you. Unfortunately, there's not really another good search target in the deck, but gotta do what you gotta do. Next up, 3 Pot of Prosperity. You might be seeing this and rolling your eyes saying, John, come on. I get it, but like, listen, I want to be able to cut down on weather cards in the deck, and to be able to do that, you need to have consistency cards like this and the map to get those if you need them. And be able to have more room to play cards like your power defensive cards, like the hand traps and the alpha and the pank and stuff. So you have to have something that gets that consistency. And also it's consistent in that the fact that we play some like really powerful one-ups, like these cards I just showed off, pank and alpha. So being able to like search, like dig for those cards is really huge in terms of being able to consistently see like, you know, big haymaker cards. Really important. And then the last spell I play is one, Dimensional Fissure. This card can already be a blowout, just like how, of course, Dimension Shifter, Jesus, can be a blowout in itself. This is just a spell version, and it obviously has synergy with our boy Thunder, because Thunder can just send this to place any other weather spell or trap. So if you ever want to clear it, or you know it's a matchup it's not great in, trade it in for a more applicable resource to the matchup. Really cool. Moving on to the trap lineup, we're on double copies of Rainbow Canvas. This is the newest card for the archetype. It's not bad. The deck just doesn't really have anything that like really like gives you payoff off of this card. But you know how like the spell can search you any card? This card banishes a Weather Painter as cost, or gives the effect a Weather Painter can banish itself as cost to then summon another Weather Painter straight out of the deck. And that's really good, obviously. This is the way you like not cheat out, but just like churn out your big girl to protect your back row, or this guy to get you resources back if your opponent ever clears anything. And that's really good because you banish a monster and that monster is coming back anyway. So it is just a straight up +1 every single turn. It's very important, but like still the deck's a little too slow, and it needed like, the deck still needs like a monster that like when it's summoned, like pops a card. You know what I mean? Or banishes a card, something, so that if we get at least getting access to this, like gives us like a powerful interruption, even if it's just one, like the ability to just churn out a monster and immediately banish a card is like, would be so nice. Next up, 2 copies of Thundery Canvas. This card is also really nice. This is your only removal really in the weather lineup. This card says at the beginning of the damage step, if the monster in its zones battles an opponent's monster, you can banish the monster, your monster, and then return the opponent's monster to the hand. It's non-targeting, non-destruction removal, and it's in damage step, so that's kind of cool too, I guess. It's fine, right? It's removal. Non-targeting, non-destruction removal, so it really punishes extra deck monsters the most. So, yeah. I mean, like, it's pretty nice, I guess, but not amazing. Definitely not amazing. I hate that he uses Battle Phase. If this didn't need Battle Phase and you could literally just at any point banish to bounce, then the deck would already be way better than it ever could have, like, has been to this point, because the deck should be just like an insane, like, compulse that rotates every turn. Crazy. Because that's all the deck needs. The deck literally needs one canvas that gives you, like, an interruption, a quick removal. And the fact that you can do it every turn actually could put the deck on the map. Seriously. Next up, we have Aurora Canvas. I don't like this card, but as you've seen, I've only shown 3 different canvases, so I needed something else, and this card can be fine. It says if your opponent ever adds exactly 1 card from their deck to their hand, banish a Weather Painter in the corresponding zone, then you banish the exact card they added, and then they draw 1 card. So with Droll, you could actually do some spicy stuff because they already would have added. So you could have them under Droll, and then you banish the card in their hand and they don't get to draw. But that didn't feel like a strong enough interaction, like Trickstar Reincarnation or anything, to play Droll. But it's if you're playing Droll on the side, like that's a cool interaction to note for sure. But anyway, I mean, it's cool because they'll use like a search card to search something. You banish the card they search, so they don't even guarantee to have that. And now they've used like probably a hard once per turn that searched them a card anyway. There's also like hits prosperity, whatever they add off of that. Like kind of cool. Like it's kind of cool. It can kind of fudge with their hands a little bit. And that's it for all the weather traps as well. Then we move to the rest of the traps. I'm on triple torrential. As I've told you multiple times before, we don't care. Like we just like do not care that because we can just at any moment get our monsters off the field. So torrential is like so insane. Even if like we're gonna get a monster back on standby, we can then torrential, clearing the board, and then we chain because we might already have either snowy canvas or like rainbowed canvas. So that way we can either get a summon from deck or get a search. and like just still keep our monsters in rotation, but also clear our opponent's board. Also, it's one of the traps that tends to be better going second as well. Also Solemn Strike. Solemn Strike I'm a little more shaky on, just because like we're already playing Puri Rice map, so we pay 4,000 turn 1 just to activate this card, and that's only 4,000 life points to play around with this. Also, the fact that we are constantly banishing our monsters from our field can leave our life points kind of open. So if our opponent can just put a beater on the field through our interaction, sometimes they can just get in for game. But I just felt like this interacting with Torrential Tribute was just way too strong, and like I had to play it at the end of the day. Then the last card is Skill Drain. It's another Floodgate. Obviously, you cannot end up sending it off as Thunder because Thunder is negated on the field, but yeah, actually maybe you can resolve it if you do like activate Thunder effect and then chain one of the effects, like one of his other effects that he's getting from a canvas to remove from the field. I actually think he might resolve to send Skill Drain and set something back because he's not on the field, and Skill Drain is one of those effects that's like weird. It's a lot of those effects still won't resolve, but I think Skill Drain's worded in a very specific way. I don't know, whatever. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, just something to look into there. But Skill Drain's still just so good. You're able to activate any of their effects that banish for cost and resolve them. And so you can just play Beatdown while Skill Drain's on the field. Gets the job done. All right, into the extra deck. It's probably a bunch of nonsense. Obviously, we're playing Prosperity. There's really not much we're making use of here, but theoretically, this stuff could come up. Obviously, one Lambda. If we have a Gamma in hand and we don't really have the ability to like clear our field, maybe it's worth, if you have enough monsters, just make a Lambda. It's a beater, and you can make Gamma live. Could be worth. Next up, Asa as well as Lina. These are really cool because Snow is Earth and Thunder is Light, so those are the most popular cards you're going to be seeing from the Weather Engine monster-wise, and so making these is pretty easy. Also, Gam can help you make this. If your opponent has anything in grave, you can just reborn it and still have the ability to link up. Not too shabby, and they also float, which is cool. And then we have Selene. This is your main target to be linking up into off of Lina or Asa, so that like they revive something, you make Selene. Selene revives them because there's probably 3 spells somewhere in the duel, and then you make like access code or something, right? Like that could be kind of cool. There, one Unicorn. Just theoretically could be nice to have extra removal at some point. A double Weather Painter Rainbow. This is technically the boss monster for the archetype, but it is really hard to make. This card's pretty powerful, though. I mean, I think it's, what is this? This is, I believe this isn't a once per turn, but if your opponent would special summon a monster, you can send this link summon card to the graveyard to negate the summon and then destroy that monster. Also, it gives effects to all monsters it points to, and it points down 3 ways, all Weather Painters. That if any card or effect is activated, you can quick effect to banish that Weather Painter to negate and destroy that card. So not only is this card a negate, a summon, right? Like a solemn, what the hell is that card called? I guess technically you could say like solemn strike on the negate, the summon. But also it gives, makes every painter under it an Omni negate. The problem with that is this deck can't get to a link 3 until like you go first, your opponent goes, you go again. You probably can make it, but you wouldn't be able to make it with any Weather Painters under it. You would have linked them all off and sent them to grave. That's horrible. Other than that, it's going to take you until like literally your next turn. Like you go first, and turn 5 is like the first time you could potentially make this card. It ends you duels once you're running away with advantage, but other than that, like it takes way too long to make. So the deck needs like some kind of way to either like set up interruption without getting to this card, or just a faster way to get to this card. Maybe even turn 1, but maybe it's a play that like at most you can maybe get 2 Weather Painters under it, but no more than that. Maybe that's something we run into at some point, but for now, it's just kind of a finisher. You sit on that to just like kind of solidify the duel in your favor. And then access code, just it can win you duels. Like it can come up if you just churn your resources into so many Weather Painters that you just have easily 4 monsters come up. Then some rank 3s, Gossip Shadow, Grand Pulse, and Fortune Tune. Back removal, not the biggest deal, but I figured like why play Phoenix when you can play this because your whole main deck is level 3s. And this could be potentially 2 pops. It's a bigger body in terms of defense, and like that's kind of cool. Gossip Shadow's technically an eruption, but like theoretically she should never be needing to make it. And then Fortune Tune, this could actually come up with like Downer potentially to just make Zeus. And I get it, you play a lot of continuuses, so you don't really want to do that generally, but there are always weird situations in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where if you can make a 4-mat Zeus, you use one of its activations to clear the whole board, and then you still have one more for your opponent's turn, as long as you have something like a Snow still in hand, or maybe a Thundery coming back or something, you still could be able to play on the next turn, so whatever. And then Omega and the Chaos Ruler, these are literally just for the Gamma package. Sometimes Omega is going to be better, just start controlling your opponent's hand, but also Chaos Ruler could be pretty nasty to just let you dig for like a Haymaker, right? Like being able to just like dig for something like, not Gamma, but like Pank or Alpha or Dimensional Fissure, right? Torrential Tribute, Solemn Strike, Skill Drain, that kind of stuff. And also it's just a big body, so like even in that sense, it can still be useful just to be a Chungus to help apply pressure or keep your opponent from being able to dink you directly after activating like a Piri Rice map. So yeah, that's, I think, pretty much it for the deck profile. I actually feel pretty good about this. I mean, the deck feels much better because we don't need to play as many weather cards because of the consistency pieces we now have. The deck feels like you can play more of these defensive cards and still feel pretty confident that you can fairly consistently like see your weather cards and your starters to get plays going. But the deck definitely needs help. The deck needs either like a Link 1, a main deck monster that's like has an effect to like remove a card when it's summoned or something, or I have no idea, right? Like something, some way to either climb up into the Link 3 faster, or a way to like make like the trap that summons from deck like an actual interruption, or just maybe another canvas that's like actually quick removal and doesn't require the battle phase. Like I'd like it so that like I'd want it so that Thundery Canvas was just like a 1-of utility card for removal instead of like a must-play 2-of because it's your only removal in the entire deck, right? But yeah, you know, the deck obviously has big holes, but when it does get going and your opponent like starts slow and can't get their stuff going, the deck runs away with advantage, and it can be hard to overcome at certain points. So you got to respect it. Hopefully it gets support at some point. Magical Musketeers got max, so why can't this deck get an insane support card? 2, we'll just have to wait and see though. But that's going to do it for me here today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one down the line. Awesome profiles coming. There's so much cool support in Yu-Gi-Oh! Coming. Konami's honestly been killing it with support and new sets and stuff. So very excited for that. So stay tuned, subscribe, all that shiz, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.